Hello, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to more CSGO news. A happy Chinese New Year to all of you guys celebrating. Thanks to the comment as well, reminding me yesterday that China has a ban on YouTube, and I'm sure we still have Chinese viewers out there, or at least I think I've seen a few. We also could have an update tonight, or of course maybe Wednesday, probably not Wednesday, but tonight as well as Thursday, most likely for stickers, maybe a correlated Chinese New Year update. It's kind of unlikely, but stickers are very likely to happen either tonight, guys, or Thursday. Keep your eyes out for that. And in typical fashion, as of uploading yesterday's video, you guys know it's a curse I have. Big news hits after my video goes live. That is Mousesports, of course, announcing their brand new roster change. That's the benching of both ChrisJ and Styko. Now, these are two huge changes. Obviously, of all the teams that failed to make the major, we expected some changes to happen sometime soon. Now, when they were going to happen, it's still a giant question mark. I did think, though, of all the teams who did fail to make it, the North, the Optic, the Mousesports, those kind of rosters out there, I maybe thought Mousesports was the one roster that might try and stay intact, right? Formerly a top 5 team, although a team that many of us thought never really fully earned their spot in top 5, never really solidified their spot there, and a team that no one was ever so really surprised when they lost a best of 3 at a major tournament, in my own opinion. But also on top of that, though, the players they replaced or have benched, that being Styko and ChrisJ, came as a big surprise to me. I would have thought if any player out there would have been targeted and keen for replacement, I honestly thought Oscar might have been one of those choices out there. Of course, they do keep those remaining 3 players on the roster, though, but ChrisJ and Styko certainly have options. Of course, let's go over the past history of these guys. If you guys do not remember, Styko had a pretty tumultuous 2018, right? He was first benched by Mousesports, then sent away to Cloud9 on a trial. He stood in there for a while. Once his loan or his trial was done there, it was actually a loan. He came back to Mousesports. He was initially actually replaced by Snacks on that roster. That's why he was sent to Cloud9 on that loan. Once he came back, he then replaced Snacks as they benched Snacks, and they have now benched him once more. We'll see if Hellraisers calls his name one more time. I would not be surprised by that. He certainly does have options based on his performance. I still think a very solid player. And then you got ChrisJ, a guy that many of us thought was the biggest potential player to be joining FaZe Clan. I still think certainly a list of teams he has options for. I think certainly a player as well who probably has more options given his talents of he can secondary and primary op, and of course, as many of us know, IGL as well. There are many prospected teams out there this man could be joining, and as well, I think in my own opinion, I love the guy. I love watching him. He's definitely a fan favorite out there. I cannot wait to see where this guy goes because he certainly will be signing somewhere post-major. There is no doubt in my mind. An Optic, a North, maybe a big clan. I think FaZe is still certainly on his list of potential teams out there. ChrisJ will go somewhere, and I am very surprised by this roster change, and we could see a huge downturn for the Mousesports roster. Like I said previously, that was once a top 5 team in the world throughout 2018. So I'm just shocked by this. A huge change out there. I expect more changes coming soon, but probably not till after the major. Those teams I talked about earlier, Optic, I definitely expect changes. I think North, a lot of us want to see changes, and some pretty crazy things happening out there. Now, speaking of top 5 teams out there, not too many people actually seeing this. I just missed this as well. I did not realize Fnatic has now cracked the top 5 team in the world. They're currently the number 5 team in the world, and doing so by winning one event throughout the last year. Now let's take away their 2 early victories, okay? IEM as well as WESG. Take away those 2 victories. They were 11 months ago, but just take those away, scrap them in the scrapbook. These guys were a fairly consistent team. I think iBuyPower Masters, a top 5 finish. That was pretty recent, but that was also a subpar event. They won one event, guys. PLG Slam with these teams there. They were probably one of the favorite teams alongside HR, and that was it. So apparently now the disparity is pretty wide in these gaps. I think you have your Astralis, you have your Liquids, maybe your Navis, and so on and so forth, but the gap between Astralis and Liquid is ever widening between teams that have now won just one event, being a top 5 team in the world. I think it goes to show you guys the disparity, the gap of these top teams is ever growing so far. I still think a very solid roster, don't get me wrong. Fnatic is definitely going to be a sleeper team for this major with how consistent their roster's been, and especially with Braun and Twisp joining that roster. I think certain improvements will be there, and I'm not hating on, don't take my words out of context, guys. I like most teams out there, so I'm not trying to trash talk. I'm just saying the gap is pretty crazy going into this major. We should have some clear-cut favorites for pick'ems and predictions. On top of that, though, of course, another top story out there breaking this past weekend. As many of you guys know, the new Team Denial owner has signed the Bravado roster without Destiny on that roster, so 4 of those 5 Bravado Gaming members are going to go to Team Denial as their new CSGO roster. Their newest owner, though, some controversy this past weekend as his Twitter was suspended just shortly after this video was posted by him.
All the nerds are mad that I said I didn't say connotation negative for gays. I said it because he was being It's the same as being a bitch. My son's gay. My sister's gay. I'm pretty sure I'm gay. So I'm not knocking that community. If anyone has a fucking problem with that at any organization, they can talk to me personally. Other than that, that little H1Z1 prick took my money, didn't hold up his end of the deal, and is now calling me fake. Hence him being a He's a bitch, and he knows it. I will see him at TwitchCon, and I'll shake my hand, and I'll double his net worth again. Anyone else has an issue, you guys know my at.
So as many of you guys, if you could not tell, it was a homophobic slur he was saying several times. That's why I had to bleep it, but it doesn't take away from the video. And clearly the message here, guys, he is not afraid to say what's on his mind. He has actually had a lot of these instances in the past. So these altercations, both online as well as apparently in person as well. Definitely a guy who's not afraid to speak his mind, but certainly probably bringing some unwanted eyes, unwanted attention to the new Denial roster, which are already having worries out there. Other CSGO talent, commentators, analysts, reporters as well, talking about his sketchy past. We'll see how this works out for him if his Twitter does get back in his own hands, and how this all does play out. It just has a I will say, slightly Soulja Boy vibes around this. Not totally gone down that path yet, but definitely not good attention for the new Denial roster. Now, speaking of other teams out there, potentially other owners as well, it's actually Windigo's owner, formerly of HR, actually left that project back a couple years ago to pursue this brand new roster, that being the Windigo roster, a roster, of course, of Bulgarian players, certainly on the rise, certainly saw improvement under him. They were also the ex-Outlaw roster as well. Before that, I believe the team Mortal Kombat was at least a part of these. That's what I followed back in the day, but certainly a team who has risen underneath this of course, this owner. And unfortunately enough, guys, he did announce just yesterday this roster will be up for sale, and he'll be pursuing a brand new project. So it's crazy to see a guy go from HR to now building up Windigo. Of course, they also failed to make the major, but I think a team who stood a pretty good chance, not a pretty good chance, but definitely a sleeper team, an underdog team that I chose to try and make the major itself. A team who showed up pretty much just like Mousesports did, right? They had a chance to actually make playoffs for that minor, to go to the major qualifier. They failed to do so, and definitely a team on the rise, and the #1 Bulgarian team in the world, also retaining their Pro League spot. This team, I do believe, if Bravado Gaming gets bought, this team also will be bought as well, and this guy, or this owner as well, will be pursuing brand new projects out there. I'm excited to see what other teams this guy can build, but Windigo is officially up for sale and up for transfer. And lastly, in CSGO news today, it's actually Heroic. They were teasing a rebrand and also a new logo, as well as a color change we expected a couple days ago. It's now come true, guys. Heroic has rebranded to brand new colors, as well as a brand new logo. The logo kind of has some relevance to it, their previous two logos as well. The colors, though, are absolutely brand new. So pretty cool look, I would say, in my own opinion. Excited to see where these guys can go, because the first day with their rebrand, first of all, Blame F, their newest addition, this guy is an absolute truck. I would never want to see this guy he's freaking huge. Alongside that, though, their first actual game back with these new jerseys, they actually take down Navi in a best of 3. The Ice Challenge currently going on. This is the last low tier event. Only 4 teams there, alongside North, of Vanguard, and of course Navi and Heroic, the only 4 teams there. This will be their last event before the major for Navi, and they've taken a loss to Heroic this morning, and some pretty interesting performances out there that we keep on seeing from Zeus. One of the most debatable topics out there, right? You get an IGL with so little frag, but he's still the best IGL that CIS has ever seen. So you kind of weigh your options out there. Electronic also performing a little poorly for himself, and that's likely why they lost that matchup. Although the entire team, sorry, I don't really know what that was. I don't like sharing my opinion sometimes when we're not doing prediction episodes. It just seems that this would be a little bit worrying, right? Navi still going in the lower bracket. They'll likely have a solid chance of still winning this tournament, but we have now seen it once again. When Electronic and Simple both do not go off, this roster does struggle a little bit. Of course, it's a 1 best of 3. I'm not going to take too much for it, but as always, my name is Jake. I hope you guys all enjoy this episode of CSGO News. I'll be back here tomorrow or Thursday as we slowly approach the major. We slowly approach sticker updates and some great things coming. Thank you all for the great comments yesterday. You guys left so many comments, and I can't even reply to all of them. But as always, guys, I will see you all back here tomorrow or sometime soon. There's a CSGO giveaway down below, free to enter. And until next time, I'll see you then.